Okay, so this is the second half of the November 2017 intermediate numeracy paper. So we've worked through 1 to 5, now we're going to go 6 to 9. Quite an unusual paper. There's only 9 questions, but lots of them have got lots of parts to them. So, question 6. Alptai is a ski resort. The daily snowfall for January is given in the table below. So, as I say many times in class, when you're given a table, choose a row and turn it into a sentence to make sure you understand what it's telling you. So this row here is telling you that in January there were 16 days where the snowfall was between 5 and 10 centimeters. And the little double line there means that 5 centimeters is included in this group, not in that group. So the double line means includes 5. That no double line means it doesn't include 10, because 10 is below it. So that's how that works. Calculate an estimate of the mean. Okay, so that's a trigger for you of a specific method for working out the mean. Okay, it's the CB method, where first of all you've got to work out, because it's an estimate. Going back to my row there, I know that on 16 days, the snowfall was between 5 and 10, but I don't know exactly what it was. So I have to estimate. And the way that I estimate is by choosing the mid value. So I'm going to say, for those 16 days, the daily snowfall was halfway between 5 and 10, which is 7.5. So that's the mid value. So we can put that into our table there. So halfway between 0 and 5 is 2.5. Halfway between 5 and 10, 7.5. Halfway between 10 and 20 is 15. Halfway between 20 and 30 is 25. And halfway between 30 and 50 is 40. So they don't always go up by the same jump. Okay, you've got to look at what the gaps are. Because I'm working with mean, I know I've got to find the total amount of snow and divide by however many days there are. So to work out the total, I know that in those 10 days, I'm saying on each of the days there was 2.5 centimeters of snow. So to get the total, I've got to multiply those together. So I need to do 2.5 times 10, which is 25. I've got to do 7.5 times 16, which is 120. I've got to do 15 times 4, which is 60. Now here's a really common mistake. 25 times 0 isn't 25, it's 0. Okay, if there was 25, no days when 25 centimeters of snow fell, that's 0 in total. And then 40 times 1 is 40. So to find the mean, it's the total divided by the count. The total, what's that all come to? So 25 plus 120 plus 60 plus 0 plus 40, which is 245, divided by the count, how many data items there are. So you can either get that by adding up the number of days, or it's telling you it's January. So if you know there's 31 days in January, that's fine. So 7.9 centimeters of snow is my estimate. Part B. Circle either true or false for each of the following statements. The table above shows there definitely was snowfall on each of the 31 days in January. Well, this tells you the depth, not that 0. Okay, that 0 there is telling you there were no days where the depth was between 20 and 30. So there were 10 days where the snowfall was between 0 and 5. But because of that equal sign there, that double line in the inequality, there could be zeros in there as well. So it's false. We know there were 10 days where there might have been no snow. There were 16 days when the daily snowfall was less than 10 centimeters. Well, there were 16 days when the snowfall was between 5 and 10, but there were 10 days where it was between 0 and 5, and those are also less than 10. So that's false as well. In fact, there were 26 days where the snowfall was less than 10 centimeters. There was only one day with snowfall greater or equal to 20 centimeters. So greater than or equal to 20 centimeters means it's in that category, or it's in the 30 to 50. And there's only one day in those two, so that is true. The modal group also contains the median. So the modal group is the group with the most number of days in, which is that one. And the median is the middle. So if there are 31 days in the month, the middle, we're looking for the 15th, 16th. The first 10 days are in that group. By the time I reach this point, I've gone through 26 days. So the median is also in that group. So that is true. This is a grade B question now. For 28 days of February, the mean daily snowfall was 9 centimeters. On the 1st of February, the snowfall recorded was 63 centimeters. Calculate the mean daily snowfall for the 27-day period, 22nd to 28th of February. So in order to answer that, I need to know how much snow fell between the 2nd and the 28th. This is a reverse mean question, okay? Where I know what the mean is, and I know how many days there are. So where I've got the mean is total divided by count. I know that the mean is 9. I don't know what the total is, and I know that that's 28. So to figure out the total snow fallen in February, it's going to be 28 times 9. So 28 times 9, 252 centimeters. So I know through all of February, that's how much snow fell. But on February, 63 centimeters fell. So in the rest of February, total falling in the rest of February is the 252 that fell in the whole month, less the 63 centimeters that fell on the first day of the month. So that's 189 centimeters. So the question, what do they want us to do, is calculate the mean daily snowfall for the 27-day period. So the 27 days that don't include that first snowfall of 63 centimeters. So the new mean, so the mean for the rest of Feb would be the total snow that fell, which is 189, divided by 27 days that are left. So we do 189 divided by 27, 7 centimeters. Okay, so that's one of those that when we did this back in September, I was saying you've got to spot it. If they're giving you a mean and a total, a mean and a count, 28 days, they're expecting you to work backwards to work out what the total is. So that's our first CB question, and the marks for that. There's 1 mark. All I'm looking for are those mid values. So if you've got written down 2.5, 7.5, 15, 25 and 40, there's a mark. There's a mark for showing me that you're multiplying those to get the total and then adding them together. So the 245 there gets you the second mark. Then there's a second method mark for dividing that by 31 and an answer mark for 7.9. For part B, there's 2 marks if you get false, false, true, true. There's 1 mark if you get any 3 of them right. So if you make 1 mistake, you would get 1 mark there. And then for part C, the nasty bit, there's a method mark for finding that total. So if I see 252, you're going to get a mark. There's a method mark if you work out what the new total is, and an answer mark for the correct answer of 7 centimeters. Question 7. So once again, now we're into this CB zone. Bronwyn and Alvaro decide to keep some alpacas on their farm in Patagonia. Alvaro knows it is possible to keep between 4 and 6 alpacas on each acre of suitable farmland. They have 13 hectares of farmland and they want to use it to keep the alpacas. Bronwyn knows that 1 acre is 4,046.86 square meters and that 10,000 square meters is 1 hectare. Use this information to advise Bronwyn and Alvaro on the number of alpacas they could keep on their farmland. State any assumptions that you make. So this is a units question, but there are only a small number of units you're required to know, and we've written those down on the front page. So those are the only ones you need to know. Any other units they will give you. So they don't expect you to know the relationship between acres and square meters or square meters and hectares. But excuse me, in order to know how many alpacas they can keep, I've got to find out what their land is in acres, because between 4 and 6 per acre. So they got 13 hectares. And I know that 1 hectare is 10,000 square meters. So to turn their hectares into square meters, I'm going to times it by 10,000. So I get 13 followed by 4 zeros. Square meters. So that's step 1. I now need to turn the square meters into acres. So to turn that, every 4,046.86 of them is equivalent to 1 acre. So I want to see how many times that goes into 130,000. To see how many acres I've got. So 130,000 divided by 4046.86, 32.1 acres. So that's how much land they've got. Each acre you can keep between 4 and 6 alpacas on. So there's different ways of dealing with this. What I would do now is to say, right, well, if there's 32 acres, at most 32 acres and 6 alpacas. So 32 times 6, 192 of the things. At most. So what assumption have I used? I'm working with the maximum. The assumption is they can't have more than that. Okay, you could have gone with 5, between 4 and 6, and done 5. You could have gone with 4 and said, well, you can keep at least, doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm working with the maximum, you could have done something else. Part B. Bronwen decides to place a cylindrical water container in the small paddock on the farm. The water container has a diameter of 1.4 meters. So here now I'm already thinking cylinder, diameter, cylinder. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm going to be using this cylinder relationship that I don't have to remember because I wrote it down earlier. Okay. Bronwen decides to place the center of the water container so that it is equidistant from the south fence and the east fence. Meg? Loci. And also 3 meters from the south fence. Show the placement of the water container on the scale diagram of the paddock above. Your diagram should include an accurate plan view of the water container. Right, we're going to take this one step at a time. Equidistant from the south fence is here, and the east fence is here. So it's going to be a line that cuts that in half. Okay? Now, you don't have to construct this one because it's not telling you to. But I'm going to construct it because it's good practice in case it's a question where they tell you to construct it. So I have to cut that angle in half. To do that, we use a compass. We put the compass point at the corner where the two lines cross that we want to cut in half, and we draw part of a circle through that like so. Or you can just mark either side. Then without changing the size of the compass, you move it to that corner. Doesn't matter how big. Okay, it's just got to be comfortable. Then you move the compass point to where the curve crosses the line, one of the lines, and draw a bit. And then you move to the other side and you draw the other bit. And then you join those two together. Okay, so you get your compass, open it out, doesn't matter how far, you don't have to measure it. You put the compass point on the corner of the line, or the angle that you want to cut in half. Like that. You then need to make sure that that compass crosses each side of the angle you want to cut in half. Okay? You then move the point to where that curve crosses one side, and you draw out in the middle, and where it crosses the other side and draw out in the middle. But in this question, you could have just measured 45 degrees and you'd have got the marks. So the center of that tank is on that line. Okay? We've done that first bullet point. Equidistant from the south fence and the east fence. Equidistant means it's an equal distance. So anywhere on that line is going to be the same distance from there as from there. Same distance from there as to there. It's also 3 meters from the south fence. Now, we've got a scale. 2 centimeters represents 1 meter. So 2 centimeters is 1 meter, and I need to be 3 meters from the fence. So that's going to be a distance of 6 centimeters. So now using your ruler, if you measure 6 centimeters from the south fence and 6 centimeters from the south fence on the other side and join those together, that is where the middle, where the center of our water tank is going to be. Because that point there is exactly 3 meters away from the south fence, and it's an equal distance from the east and the south. Your diagram should include an accurate plan view of the water container. So what that means is, imagine that you've sent a drone up into the sky and it's looking down. What will you see when you're hovering over that cylindrical water tank? You're going to see a circle, and the circle is going to have a diameter of 1.4 meters. So 2 centimeters is 1 meter. So 1.4 meters is going to be 2.8 centimeters, because we're doubling it. So it's going to have a diameter of 2.8. When we draw a circle, we don't measure the diameter, we measure the radius. So the radius is going to be half of 1.4, which is 0.7, which we then double to use the scale. So our radius, so this is the diameter, so the radius will be half the diameter, which is going to be 1.4 centimeters. So it's a bit confusing because we're doubling and halving. So 1.4 now, this is where you do have to measure, Ewan, alright? Okay, so your compass point is on 0 and you're opening it out to 1.4. Put the compass point there and you draw the circle. So that's got a radius of 1.4. You measure from the center out, which means the diameter is 2.8. And that's a plan view, because if you were hovering above the field, that's what you would see, is that circle. So that's what they're looking for with that loci question. Part 2. The water container holds 900 litres of water when full. Calculate the height of the water in centimetres. Right, so this now is where what we wrote earlier helps us. Because I know 1 litre is 1,000 cubic centimetres. So 900 litres is 900,000 cubic centimetres. So that's how much in centimetres, cubic centimetres, water is in that tank. Now, I know from here that the volume of that tank is pi r squared times h. Okay, so it's pi times the radius of the tank squared times the height or the depth, depending on what you're measuring. So what can I put into here? Well, I know that the volume is that 900,000 pi times the radius, going back to the original thing, the radius, the diameter is 1.4 meters, the radius is 0.7 meters. Okay, but in centimeters, that's 70, 0.7 meters is 70 centimeters. So the radius is 70 centimeters, so that's 70 squared times the height. So we haven't practiced solving equations or anything like that in ages. You could rearrange that, or you could just, and this is what we'll do because we haven't practiced that, is let's work out what this side is. So pi on your calculator is above the times 10 button on the bottom row. So you do shift times 10 and you get the pi symbol, times 70 squared, press equals, SD it, and you get 15393.804 times h. So that makes it now like a simple equation, whereas to get the h on its own, we've got to break the times, we've got to do the opposite of timesing, which is dividing. So to get the h on its own, it's going to be the 900,000 divided by that big number that we've written there, 15393.804. Okay, so we're seriously into the grade 3 stuff here. One, two, three, four, 900,000 divided by, now on my calculator I can't be bothered to type that in again, I can just press ANS because it was the last thing on my calculator, and I get 58.5 centimeters. Okay, so that was a monster question. So if we go back to see where all the marks are awarded for question 7. Question 7, first of all, we are working with the conversion to acres. So there'd be 1 mark for, first of all, working out hectares into square meters, and then 1 mark for turning square meters into acres. Then there's a method mark for multiplying your 32 acres, or 32.1 acres, by some alpacas, whatever you decide to choose to use. And then 2 marks for actually getting an answer between 128 and 195 alpacas. And an E mark for the assumption that I'm working with the most alpacas. And then for the loci question, one mark for the parallel line, the 6 centimeter line up, and a mark for the bisector, which is that one, and a mark for the circle where they cross, and a mark for making sure that that circle was the right radius using that strange little scale. And then for part 2, there's 2 marks for that bit of formula there. So the fact that you've turned the litres into centimetres and written it in that formula. So that's, because it's such a complicated line of maths, they're giving you 2 marks for that. And then 1 mark for getting it to the point where you're dividing, and 1 mark for your answer. So that's quite a challenging. Not many students in intermediate tier cope well with that reverse volume. That one. Yeah, okay. Well, we can have another run at it after if you like. Oh, there's a part C. I thought I'd finished, I haven't. So they really went to town on this alpaca thing. So the currency widely used in Patagonia is the Argentine peso. Alvaro sells alpaca fleeces from Patagonia. His fleeces are priced in Argentinian pesos. Tom lives in Wales and buys fleeces from Alvaro. Tom pays for the fleeces in pounds. Tom's purchases are shown in the table below. So in January 2015, he bought 80 fleeces. Each of the fleeces cost 19.20 pesos, and the exchange rate was £1 is that many pesos. For each of Tom's 3 purchases, he paid correct to the nearest penny. How much did Tom pay for these 200 fleeces in pounds? So this is actually now back to a grade C question, because it's just exchange rates. So in January 2015, he bought 80 fleeces at 19.20 pesos a fleece. So in pesos, they cost him 80 lots of 19.2, which is 1536 pesos. And then every 15.47 pesos, he gets a pound. So to turn that into pounds, I've got to divide it by 15.47. Because I'm going from pesos into pounds. So it's the opposite trip, which is dividing. So I've got to do 1536 divided by 15.47. So 99 pounds, and to the nearest penny, 29 pence. Then in March 2016, he buys 20 fleeces at a different peso value. So I've got to do now 20 times that. 446 pesos, and that's a different exchange rate, so I've now got to divide by 1521. £29.32. And in April 2017, he buys 100 of them at 24.50. And this time is a different exchange rate again. It's 14.93. So that's going to cost 164. And then to round this off to 2 decimal places, it's 0.09. So it's either £164.09 or £164.10. The next one's a 9, so it's closer to £164.10. How much did he pay for these 200 fleeces? So he paid £164.10 plus £29.32 plus £99.29. So he paid in total £292.71. So the marks for that, there's 1 mark if you correctly worked out any one of those, 1 mark if you correctly worked out all of them, an answer mark if we saw all of those, and an answer mark for the total £292.71. Okay, 2 more questions to go. Question 8. So full of grade B now. Everything else we're looking at is grade B. Handmade socks knitted using pure cashmere wool are very expensive to buy. Rowena buys cashmere wool in 20-gram balls. Each ball of cashmere wool costs her £1.42. She pays her sister £8 to knit each pair of socks, and each pair of socks takes 135 grams of cashmere. Rowena sells 40 pairs of cashmere socks for £18.95 per pair. What is her percentage profit? Give your answer correct to two significant figures. You must show all your workings. So there's a lot of information there that we've got to work with. Okay, cheers you. So we know that we've got to find out the cost of making 40 pairs of socks. Okay, so 40 pairs of socks. She's going to pay her sister £8 to knit each pair. So to work out how much she pays her sister, £40 lots of £8. So she's going to pay her sister £320 to do the knitting. She now needs to work out how much the wool is going to cost her. And to do that, we need to know how many balls of wool she needs. So 40 pairs, and each pair is going to take 135 grams of wool. So the amount of wool she needs will be 40 pairs of socks, and each pair 135 grams. So she's going to need 5,400 grams of wool. Wool comes in 20-gram balls. So the number of balls of wool she needs 5,400 grams, and they come in 20-gram balls. So she needs 270 balls. Each ball costs her £1.42. So the cost of the wool will be £1.42 per ball, and she needs 270 of them. So £383.40 is how much the wool is going to cost. So in order to make these 40 pairs of socks, it's going to cost her total costs will be the £383.40 that she has to pay for the wool, plus the £320 that she has to pay her sister. So £703.40. But she sells them for £18.95 a pair. So the amount she makes, the total income, because it's saying that she sold them, is going to be 40 lots of £18.95. Which is £758. So she makes a profit because she makes more money than she spends. So the difference between what she makes and what she spends is £54.60 profit. So this is a question where you really need to think clearly about the steps. Have I answered the question? Rowena sells 40 pairs of cashmere socks. What is her percentage profit? No, I haven't. I worked out her profit in money. As a percent, it's the amount of money she made divided by how much it cost her to make. And then, because it's a percentage, you times it by 100. So she actually, as a percentage, it's 7.8%. So that's her profit margin. So gosh, where do you start? 7 marks for that. So there's a method mark for working out how many balls of wool and an answer mark for 270. So if you figured out she needs 270 balls of wool, you get 2 marks. There is two marks for working out the profit. So if you're getting down to £54.60, there's a method, there's two method marks for that. There's a method mark for working out the percentage profit, writing that down, an answer mark for 7.8%. So that's 2, 4, 6. 6 out of 7. I'm missing a mark somewhere. Say it again. The 2 significant figures, yes. So there's the final mark because it's telling you to give it to 2 significant figures, which I did, because in this case, the 2 significant figures, well done, are the 7, which I've just got rid of. Oh God. 7.7, which rounds up to that. So the 2 significant figures are the 7, and then the other 7 rounded up to that. Well done. Couldn't find that mark then. So that was a very difficult question. Lots of intermediate students found that difficult because there's so much information. Okay, the last question. Bethan has a plan of a rectangular lawn which is labelled ABCD. She wants to cut out a triangular flower bed from her lawn, labelled GHD. So here's a rectangular lawn, there's the flower bed. Bethan decides that AG to GD, so that's a ratio, should be 1 to 2, and that DH equals HC. She's made a sketch shown below. Calculate the length of GH. So we got to work out what that diagonal is. I'm seeing a right angle triangle. This is in the last part of the paper, so I'm thinking Pythagore trig. Okay, but at the moment I can't do anything because I don't know any of the sides. It's telling me that the distance from A to B is 6.8, and they're telling me it's a rectangle, so that means that this side is also 6.8. And it's telling me here that DH equals HC. So that distance and that distance are the same. So I just need to divide that by 2. DH is 3.4. Then they're giving me some information about A to D. They're telling me that AG, the ratio AG to GD is 1 to 2. So that means that I've got 3 equal parts that I can divide that into, and I know that it's 4.8 meters. So each part is going to be 4.8 divided by 3. So 4.8 divided by 3 is 1.6. So this bit is 1.6, and this bit is 2 parts, which is going to be 3.2 meters. So if I just redraw down here what I know that that is G, that is D, that is H, that is 3.4, that is 3.2, and I want to work that out. So it's either trig or Pythag. I don't know any angles, and it's not asking me for an angle, so it's not trig. So it's Pythag. With Pythag, you need to square the sides you know. So 3.2 squared is 10.24. 3.4 squared is 11.56. Then you've got to decide whether you're going to add or subtract. If you're trying to find the longer side, you may need to make your numbers bigger, so you're going to add them. If you're trying to find the shorter side, you need to make your numbers smaller, so you subtract them. Here, I'm trying to find the hypotenuse. It's being pointed at by the box. Hypotenuse is the longest side, so I need to add those together. So I've got to do 10.24 plus 11.56. $21.8. So Pythag, you square your sides, you then add or subtract, and then to get back to the sides you have to square root. You have to do the opposite of squaring. So now we do the square root of 21.8, which is 4.669. Because they're giving you measurements to 1 decimal place, it means it's going to be absolutely fine for you to round to 1 decimal place, which would be 4.7 meters. So GH is 4.7 meters. Right. The last part. The flower bed, GHD, is to have flexible edging strip placed around its perimeter. The edging strip costs £3.50 per metre and can only be bought in strips of complete meters. How much will the edging strip cost, Bethan? So they want to buy this plastic stuff that's going to go around from there to there, and then up to there, and then from there to there. And we want to work out what the total distance is that we need to cover. And we've worked out that GH was 4.7. So the total amount, the perimeter of the shape, then the total distance we need, perimeter is going to be 3.2 plus 3.4 plus 4.7. So 3.2 plus 3.4 plus 4.7. So it's 11.3 meters. But it can only be bought in strips of complete meters. So she needs to buy either 11 meters or 12 meters, because they come in complete meters. But if she buys 11, she's not going to have enough, she's going to have a gap. So she needs to buy 12 meters. It cost £3.50 per meter. So the cost will be 12 meters times £3.50. It's going to cost her £42. Have I answered the question? How much will the edging strip cost Bethan? £42. Yes. What length of strip will be left over? Give your answer in centimetres. So what's left over? She's bought 12 metres. She needs 11.3 metres. So she's got 0.7 metres left over. Give your answer in centimetres. 70 centimetres. So finally then, to just talk through the marks for that. For part A, there's one mark for the missing sides. So there's one mark for working out the 3.4 and the 3.2. There's a method mark for squaring your sides and adding them together. There's a method mark for finding the square root. And there's an answer mark for your 4.7 meters. So one mark for the sides, a method mark for squaring and adding, a method mark for square rooting, and an answer mark for correctly working that out. And then finally, a method mark for adding your sides together for the perimeter, a method mark for realizing you actually then need 12 meters and multiplying, an answer mark for £42, and a mark for 70 centimeters left over. So there were some really big questions in that paper. It was quite unusual. But even right up to the end, there should have been marks you can earn. And no trig question, which is also unusual.